I always thought birthdays were supposed to be safe. Not perfect, just safe. That belief shattered the moment I watched my brother smile while my son's birthday gifts broke in his hands, and everyone around us laughed like it was entertainment. No shouting, no chaos. Just laughter filling the room while my 6-year-old stood there, frozen, trying to understand why his happiness was suddenly a joke. I didn't scream. I didn't rush forward. I watched my son learn something. I spent my whole childhood learning the hard way. In our family, staying quiet was how you survived. My brother said it was just a joke. My relatives said I was overreacting. My mother said, "Let's not ruin the day." But as I looked at my son, silent, shrinking, already blaming himself, I realized this wasn't about broken gifts. It was about what breaks when no one stops it. And that was the moment my father finally did. My name is Gianna Miller, and in my family, I was never the loud one. I was the one who learned how to read a room before I learned how to read a book. The one who knew when to speak and, more importantly, when not to. Keeping things calm was my role. Keeping things pleasant. Keeping things from falling apart. So when my mother suggested we host my son's birthday at my parents' house, I told myself it was fine. "It'll be nice," she said over the phone. "Your father misses Ethan, and your brother promised he'd behave." That word behave made me pause. Ryan had never needed rules. He was charming, confident, the kind of man people excused before he even did something wrong. If Ryan crossed a line, someone else always redrew it for him. Still, I said yes, because saying no had always been harder. Ethan woke up before sunrise that morning. "Mom," he whispered, climbing onto my bed, his hair sticking up in every direction. "Is today really my birthday?" I smiled, brushing his hair back. "It really is," he beamed. "Do you think Grandpa will like the card I made him?" "I know he will," I said. Ethan loved making things with his hands, cards, drawings, little projects that took him hours of careful focus. He wasn't reckless. He wasn't loud. He felt things deeply, just like I did. As I wrapped his gifts, I found myself being unusually careful. Extra tape, thicker paper. I don't know why I did it. Maybe part of me already felt uneasy, like I was sending something fragile into a room that didn't know how to handle gentleness. In the car, Ethan held one gift bag tightly against his chest. "Uncle Ryan is coming, right?" he asked, eyes bright. "Yes," I said, keeping my tone neutral. "He makes jokes," Ethan said. "He's funny." I nodded, but my hands tightened on the steering wheel. My parents' house looked exactly the same as it always had. The same family photos lining the walls. The same couch where arguments were quietly swallowed. The same dining table where nothing uncomfortable was ever addressed directly. The smell of coffee and frosting hung in the air. My mother, Linda, rushed over the moment we walked in. "There's my birthday boy!" she exclaimed, pulling Ethan into a hug that lasted a second too long. "6 already. I can't believe it." Ethan smiled politely. My father, Thomas, waved from his chair at the head of the room. He didn't say much. He never had. He watched more than he spoke, which I'd always thought meant he didn't notice things. Now, I wasn't so sure. Relatives trickled in. Conversations overlapped. Laughter filled the room. Everything looked normal. Safe, even. Then the front door opened. "Did you miss me?" Ryan's voice cut through the noise instantly. He walked in like he owned the space. Sunglasses still on, confidence spilling out of him. No gift, no card. Just a grin and the assumption that his presence was enough. "There's my favorite nephew," he said, crouching down and ruffling Ethan's hair. "Wow, 6 years old already." Ethan laughed, a little nervously. "Hey," I said lightly. "Maybe let him open the gifts first." Ryan glanced up at me. "Oh, come on, Gianna," he said with a smile that felt dismissive rather than warm. "What's a birthday without a little excitement?" People chuckled. I forced a smile, reminding myself not to overthink. This was a celebration. I didn't want to be the difficult one. I never was. Ethan sat cross-legged on the floor as the gifts were brought out and stacked in front of him. His eyes widened with excitement, his hands hovering as if he didn't know where to start. "Go ahead," my mother urged. "Open them." Ethan looked up at me first, as if asking permission. I nodded. "Go on, sweetheart." Ryan leaned closer, watching intently. "Let's see what you got." he said. Something about the way he said it made my stomach tighten. I brushed the feeling aside. At that moment, I still believed this was just a birthday. I still believed adults knew where the line was. I still believed someone would stop things before they went too far. I was wrong. Ethan reached for the first gift slowly, like he was afraid the moment might disappear if he moved too fast. He peeled the wrapping paper back with careful fingers, folding each piece neatly beside him the way I had taught him. When the box finally opened, his face lit up. "A robot!" he gasped. "Mom, look!" He held it up proudly, turning it in his hands like it was something precious. It wasn't expensive. It wasn't rare. But to him, it mattered. Ryan leaned in immediately. "Let me see that," he said, already reaching for it. Ethan hesitated, just for a second, then handed it over. Ryan turned the robot around, bending the arms, twisting the joints. "Wow," he said loudly. "They really don't make these like they used to." "Ryan," I said, trying to keep my tone light. "Be careful." He smirked. "Relax." There was a sharp snap. One of the robot's arms bent the wrong way and came loose in Ryan's hand. The room went quiet, for half a second. Then someone laughed. It wasn't loud. It wasn't cruel on purpose. It was casual, dismissive, the kind of laugh people use to smooth over discomfort instead of confronting it. "Oh wow," my cousin said. "That didn't last long." Ryan chuckled and shrugged. "Cheap plastic." Ethan stared at the broken arm, his mouth slightly open. He didn't cry. He didn't say anything. He just froze. I stood up halfway from my chair. "Ryan, give it back." Ryan placed the robot on the floor in front of Ethan, the loose arm beside it. "Hey," he said, clapping his hands once. "That's life, buddy. Things break." I looked around the room. My mother laughed nervously. "Oh, kids don't even notice stuff like that." Ethan noticed. He pulled the robot closer to his chest, trying to push the arm back into place, his fingers trembling slightly as he worked. I wanted to step in. I wanted to say something stronger, but years of conditioning pressed down on me. "Don't overreact. Don't make it awkward. It's just a toy." Ryan had already moved on. "So," he said, grabbing another gift from the pile. "What's next?" "That one's from me," I said quickly. "Let him open it himself." Ryan paused, then smiled again. "Of course." He held the box out to Ethan. Ethan opened it carefully, revealing a small model car kit. His eyes lit up again. "This is the one I showed you," he said to me. "The blue one." "I know," I said softly. "You talked about it all week." Ryan lifted the car from the box, turning it over in his hands. "Wow," he said again. "This looks delicate." "Please," I said, my voice firmer now. "Let him hold it." Ryan raised an eyebrow. "Gianna, you're hovering." He loosened his grip just slightly. The car slipped. It didn't shatter. It didn't explode. It fell the way accidents fall quietly, believably. The front wheel popped off. Ryan laughed. "Oops." This time, the laughter spread faster. "Guess it wasn't meant to last," someone joked. "Kids need to learn not to get attached," another voice chimed in. Ethan didn't move. He didn't reach for the car. He didn't look at me. His shoulders slowly curled inward, like he was trying to fold himself smaller, like he was bracing for something worse. That's when I felt it. That cold, sinking recognition. I had seen that posture before, in mirrors, in old photos, in memories I spent years trying to forget. Ryan nudged the broken car toward Ethan with his foot. "Hey," he said lightly. "No big deal, right?" Ethan nodded. "Too fast." "Yes," he whispered. "It's okay." Something inside my chest cracked open. It wasn't the gifts. It was the lesson. That smiling through disappointment made adults comfortable. That silence was rewarded. That pain, when laughed at, didn't deserve space. "Ryan," I said, standing fully now. "Stop." The room quieted. Ryan looked up at me, amused. "Stop what?" "This," I said, gesturing to the floor. "This isn't funny." He laughed again, but this time it was sharper. "Wow, you're really going to turn his birthday into a lecture?" My mother sighed. "Gianna, don't make this a thing." I looked at Ethan. He was staring at the carpet, his hands clenched in his lap. He wasn't waiting for help. He was waiting for permission to disappear. And in that moment I understood something I hadn't allowed myself to see before. If I stayed quiet now, I wasn't protecting the peace. I was teaching my son how to survive harm by pretending it didn't hurt. And that was a lesson I refused to pass on. When I told Ryan to stop, I expected resistance. What I didn't expect was how quickly the room turned against me. He leaned back on his heels, hands raised like I'd just accused him of something outrageous. "Wow," he said, laughing. "You're acting like I committed a crime." No one laughed this time. But no one defended me either. My mother cleared her throat. "Gianna, sweetheart, he didn't mean anything by it." I turned to her. "Then why is Ethan shaking?" She glanced down, then away. "He's just tired." Ethan wasn't tired. He was holding his breath. I knelt beside him. "Hey," I said gently. "You don't have to say it's okay if it's not." His eyes flicked up to mine, wide and uncertain, like he was checking for permission. Then he looked at Ryan. Then at my mother. "It's okay," he whispered again. That was when I realized how deep this went. This wasn't one bad moment. It was a pattern, Ryan scoffed. "See? Even he's fine." I stood up slowly. My hands were shaking, but my voice didn't. "No," I said. "He's not fine. He's trying to make you comfortable." Ryan laughed. "You're projecting." I turned to the rest of the room. "Does anyone here think this is funny?" Silence. My cousin shifted in her seat. My aunt stared at her phone. Someone took a sip of coffee like this was all background noise. My mother sighed again, sharper this time. "Gianna, you're embarrassing everyone." That word hit harder than I expected. "Embarrassing?" I repeated. "Yes," she said. "You're making it uncomfortable." I let out a short, humorless breath. "It's uncomfortable because it's wrong." Ryan rolled his eyes. "Oh my God. You always do this. You take things too seriously." I stepped closer to him. "This is my son," I said. Not a punchline. Ryan's smile faded just a little. "You're raising him soft." Something inside me snapped, not loudly, not explosively, but cleanly, like a thread pulled too tight for too long. "I was raised soft," I said quietly. "And do you know what that actually meant?" Ryan didn't answer. "It meant I learned how to disappear," I continued. "It meant I learned that if I stayed quiet, people wouldn't hurt me more." My voice trembled despite my effort to keep it steady. "I won't teach him that." The room felt smaller suddenly, heavier. My mother stepped between us, her hands fluttering. "Please, let's not do this right now. It's a birthday." "That's exactly why we're doing this now," I said. Ryan laughed again, but it sounded forced. "So what, Gianna? You want an apology?" "Fine. I'm sorry the toys broke." He clapped his hands once. "Happy?" "No," I said. "I want you to stop." Ryan's face hardened. "You don't get to tell me what to do in this house." That's when I heard a chair scrape against the floor. Slow, deliberate. Everyone turned. My father had stood up. He didn't speak right away. He didn't rush. He simply straightened, adjusting his sleeves like he was preparing for something he'd known was coming for a long time. Ryan glanced over his shoulder. "Dad, you're not seriously getting involved in this, are you?" My father looked at him calmly. "I've been involved for years," he said. "I just didn't say it out loud." The room went silent. My mother froze. "Thomas." He raised a hand gently, not to silence her but to pause her. "Just a moment." He walked over to the gifts scattered on the floor. He picked up the broken robot arm, turning it over in his fingers. "This didn't break by itself," he said. Ryan shrugged. "It's cheap." My father nodded. "So is respect, apparently." Ryan scoffed. "You're really choosing her side?" My father looked at Ethan, then at me, then back at Ryan. "I'm choosing what's right," he said. Ryan laughed, but his eyes darted around the room now, searching for support. "You're all acting like I traumatized the kid." My father set the broken piece back down carefully. "You didn't traumatize him," he said. "You tested him." Ryan frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means," my father said slowly, "you wanted to see how much you could get away with." No one spoke. Even my mother was quiet now. Ryan opened his mouth, then closed it again. "This is ridiculous." My father took a breath. "What's ridiculous," he said, "is how long we've let this continue." He looked around the room, at the jokes, at the excuses, at the way everyone laughs so they don't have to step in. His eyes settled on me. I should have stepped in sooner. Something in his voice, regret, maybe made my throat tighten. Ryan shook his head. You're overreacting. My father didn't raise his voice. Sit down, he said. Ryan didn't. And for the first time in his life, he looked unsure. Ryan didn't sit down. He stood there with his arms crossed, jaw tight, like he was daring someone to challenge him. For most of his life, that posture had worked. People backed off. Conversations shifted. Consequences evaporated. My father didn't move. Ryan, he said again, evenly. This isn't a negotiation. Ryan laughed, but there was a crack in it now. What are you going to do? Ground me? A few people shifted uncomfortably. My mother opened her mouth, then closed it again. The room felt suspended, like everyone was holding the same breath. My father reached into the side pocket of his briefcase and pulled out a thin folder. That alone changed the air. He placed it on the table carefully, aligning it with the edge like he always did. Order mattered to him. Details mattered. He'd built his career on that. I didn't plan to do this today, he said, looking around the room. But you've left me no choice. My mother shook her head. Thomas, please. Not in front of everyone. He met her eyes. Everyone is already involved. Ryan scoffed. What is this, an intervention? No, my father said. It's accountability. He opened the folder. Inside were papers, bank statements, printed emails, notices with official letterheads. Nothing dramatic at first glance. Nothing anyone would clap at or laugh about. Ryan leaned forward slightly, curiosity cutting through his arrogance. You've been using shared family accounts? My father continued. For years. We told ourselves it was temporary. That you were finding your footing. Ryan shrugged. You said it was fine. We said we trusted you, my father corrected. That wasn't permission. My mother's hands trembled as she clasped them together. He needed help. So did Gianna, my father said quietly. So did Ethan. That landed harder than any raised voice could have. Ryan laughed again, sharper now. This is about money? You're doing all this over money? My father shook his head. This is about responsibility. He turned one of the pages so it faced Ryan. 3 months ago, I spoke to a lawyer, he said. Not because of you. Because I realized I hadn't done my job as a parent. Ryan's smile faltered. You went behind my back? I went ahead of the problem, my father replied. My stomach tightened. I hadn't known about this. Part of me felt relieved. Another part felt foolish for thinking I was alone in seeing what was happening. My father continued, his voice steady but heavy. I asked what my obligations were to my family, to my grandson, to myself. He tapped the paper. And what my options were. Ryan stepped back slightly. This is insane. Is it? My father asked. Because what I see is a grown man who believes there are no consequences. Ryan looked around the room, searching for support. Mom? My mother swallowed hard. Thomas, maybe we should talk about this privately. My father didn't look at her. We've been talking privately for decades. Silence followed. Ethan shifted closer to me, his small hand slipping into mine. I squeezed it gently, grounding myself. Ryan exhaled sharply. So what now? You're cutting me off? I'm setting boundaries, my father said. Something I should have done a long time ago. Ryan scoffed. You can't just— I can, my father interrupted calmly. And I have. He closed the folder. As of today, he said, you no longer have access to the shared accounts. Any financial support going forward will be structured, transparent, and conditional, or it won't exist. My mother let out a quiet sob. You're tearing this family apart. No, my father said. I'm stopping it from tearing a child down. Ryan's face flushed. This is unbelievable. My father turned to Ethan then, crouching slowly so they were eye level. I'm sorry, he said gently. You should have been protected. Ethan didn't speak. He just nodded, eyes wide. Then my father stood and faced the room again. And this, he said, gesturing toward the broken gifts, is where it ends. Ryan laughed, but it sounded thin. You think this fixes anything? It fixes the most important thing, my father replied. It tells him, he nodded toward Ethan, that adults are supposed to step in. Ryan shook his head. You're choosing her. I'm choosing responsibility, my father said. There's a difference. The room felt unbearably quiet. For the first time that afternoon, Ryan didn't have a joke ready. He looked at the folder again, then at my father. and I saw something new in his eyes. Not anger. Not amusement. Fear. Ryan broke the silence first. "This is a joke," he said, forcing a laugh that didn't quite land. "You pull out a folder, say a few serious words, and suddenly, I'm the villain?" No one answered. He looked around the room, waiting for someone, anyone, to smile, to nod, to rescue him the way they always had. No one did. My mother took a shaky step forward. "Thomas, please," she said. "He didn't mean to hurt anyone. This has gone far enough." My father turned to her slowly. "Has it?" She pressed her lips together. "He broke toys, that's all." "That's not all," my father said quietly. "It's what it represents." Ryan threw his hands up. "Oh my God, here we go. Another lecture." My father didn't flinch. When a child is hurt, and the adults laugh, that's not a joke. That's a message. Ryan scoffed. "You're acting like I threatened him." "No," my father replied. "You taught him something worse." The room felt smaller with every word. I felt Ethan's grip tighten around my fingers. He was listening. Every adult word. Every pause. "What did I teach him?" Ryan snapped. My father looked at Ethan again before answering. "That his feelings don't matter if they inconvenience others." Ryan opened his mouth, then closed it. "You're exaggerating." "Am I?" my father asked. "Then explain why he stopped speaking." Ryan glanced down at Ethan for the first time since the confrontation began. Ethan didn't look back. Ryan shifted uncomfortably. "Kids are dramatic. That's what we said about Gianna," my father replied. My chest tightened. Ryan froze. "What?" My father's voice didn't rise. "We said she was sensitive, that she took things personally, that she should learn to laugh it off." He turned toward me. "And she learned. She learned to disappear." Ryan shook his head. "This isn't about her. It's about patterns," my father said. "And today, that pattern reached my grandson." Ryan laughed sharply. "So what? You're cutting me out of the family now?" My father inhaled slowly. "No, I'm setting conditions." "Conditions," Ryan repeated mockingly. "Yes," my father said. "Because family is not a free pass." Ryan stepped forward. "You can't do this. Mom won't let you." All eyes turned to my mother. She looked torn, her face pale. For a moment, I saw the calculation happening behind her eyes, the familiar weighing of peace versus truth. "Thomas," she said softly, "maybe we can talk later, when everyone's calmer." My father shook his head. "Calm is how this survived." Ryan laughed again, louder now, trying to reclaim control. "You're seriously siding with her because she's upset?" "That's not why," my father said. "I'm siding with the child." Ryan's face flushed. "You're ruining everything." My father opened the folder again. "This house," he said, tapping a document, "is in my name. The accounts you've been using are joint accounts under my authority." Ryan's laugh stopped. "As of this morning," my father continued, "access has been restricted. Any transfers without explanation will be reviewed." Ryan stared at him. "You already did this?" "Yes," my father said. "I didn't want today to become this, but I was prepared." Ryan reached for his phone, fingers moving quickly. I watched his face as the screen loaded. Once, twice. His expression changed. "What?" he muttered, tapping again. My mother rushed to him. "Ryan?" "It's not working," he said, louder now. "The account's locked." The room buzzed with whispers. "You can't just freeze everything," Ryan snapped. "I can," my father said. And I did. Ryan turned on me then, eyes blazing. "This is your fault." I didn't step back. "No," I said quietly. "This is the consequence." He laughed bitterly. "You always wanted this. You always wanted to make me look bad." "I wanted my son safe," I replied. Ryan scoffed. "From what? A joke?" My father stepped between us. "You're done," he said. Ryan stared at him. "You don't mean that." "I do," my father replied. "Until you can acknowledge harm, there will be distance." My mother cried openly now. "You're tearing us apart." My father looked at her with something like sorrow. We were already broken. Ryan's voice dropped, sharp and desperate. "You can't kick me out." My father's voice remained steady. "You're not being kicked out. You're being asked to leave." "When?" Ryan demanded. Today, my father said. The word hung in the air. Ryan laughed once more, but it sounded hollow. You're choosing her kid over your own son. My father met his gaze. I'm choosing to be a better father than I was. Silence. Ryan's bravado cracked then. Not completely, but enough. This is insane, he muttered. You'll regret this. My father didn't respond. He turned to Ethan. You didn't do anything wrong, he said gently, and you don't have to be quiet to belong here. Ethan nodded, eyes glossy but steady. I wrapped an arm around him. Ryan grabbed his jacket, movements sharp and angry. Fine. Enjoy your perfect little family. He paused at the door, waiting, hoping for someone to stop him. No one did. The door closed, and with it, something heavy finally lifted. I looked at my father. He looked tired, but he also looked free. And for the first time since that afternoon began, I believed my son had learned a different lesson. That when harm happens, someone will step in. And that silence is not the price of belonging. The house felt different after Ryan left. Not quieter, just clearer. It was like the air had finally settled into its natural state, instead of being forced into something polite and false. No one rushed to fill the silence. No one laughed it off. For the first time that afternoon, nobody pretended everything was fine. Ethan stayed close to me, his small hand wrapped tightly around my wrist. He didn't ask where his uncle went. He didn't ask why people were crying. He just leaned into my side like he needed proof that I was real. My mother sank into a chair, covering her face with her hands. I never wanted it to come to this, she whispered. My father stood near the window, looking out at the backyard. His shoulders sagged slightly, like he'd finally set something heavy down. It came to this because we avoided it, he said, not unkindly. I sat on the floor beside Ethan, gathering the broken gifts into a neat pile. Not to fix them, just to acknowledge them. I didn't rush. I didn't hide anything. Ethan watched me carefully. Mom? He asked softly. Yes, sweetheart. Am I in trouble? The question hit me harder than anything Ryan had said. I took his face gently in my hands so he had to look at me. No, I said firmly. You didn't do anything wrong. Not even a little. He searched my face, like he was checking for cracks in my certainty. But everyone was mad, he said. They weren't mad at you, I replied. They were uncomfortable with the truth. He thought about that for a moment, then nodded slowly. My father came over and knelt beside us. The movement was careful, deliberate, like he didn't want to startle Ethan. I owe you an apology, he said to my son. And to you too, Gianna. I looked up at him, surprised. I should have stepped in sooner, he continued. I saw the patterns. I just convinced myself they weren't serious enough. They were, I said quietly. I know, he replied. I know now. My mother looked up, tears streaking her face. I was trying to keep the family together. My father turned toward her. At whose expense? She didn't answer. Ethan tugged on my sleeve. Can we go home now? Yes, I said immediately. We can go home. As I helped him put his shoes on, my mother hovered nearby, unsure. I'll call you, she said to me. When things calmed down. I nodded, but I didn't promise anything. On the drive home, Ethan stared out the window, quiet but not withdrawn. There was a difference. His silence wasn't fear this time, it was processing. After a few minutes, he spoke again. Mom? Yes? When Uncle Ryan laughed, was that wrong? I took a breath. Yes, I said. It was wrong. Even if everyone else laughed too? Especially then, I answered. He nodded, satisfied with the clarity. That night, I sat on the edge of his bed as he fell asleep. He held his favorite stuffed animal unbroken. Safe, Mom, he murmured, half asleep. You didn't laugh. No, I whispered. I didn't. And I never would. The weeks that followed were strange and quiet. Ryan didn't call. My mother sent long messages that circled around apologies without landing on one. My father checked in regularly, not to explain himself, but to ask how Ethan was doing. And something unexpected happened. Ethan started talking more. Not just asking questions, but sharing thoughts. He told me when something upset him. He told me when something felt unfair. He stopped watching adults' faces before he spoke. One evening, as he spilled juice on the table, he froze. I watched the old reflex try to take hold. Then he looked up at me. I'll clean it, he said. That's all you need to do, I replied calmly. He wiped it up, smiling when he finished. No fear. No shame. Just a mistake and space to fix it. That's when I understood the real cost of what happened, and the real value of stopping it. We hadn't just protected a birthday. We had protected a future. Time didn't rush in after that day. It arrived slowly, carefully, like it was waiting to see if we were serious. The first few weeks felt strange. Too quiet. I kept expecting my phone to buzz with Ryan's name. Some angry message, some attempt to rewrite what had happened. But the silence held. When my father called, it wasn't to justify his decision. "How's Ethan?" he asked every time. "He's better," I told him honestly. "He's lighter." "I'm glad," he said. And for the first time, his voice didn't carry guilt. Just resolve. Ryan, on the other hand, spiraled. I heard about it through fragments, relatives whispering, half-formed stories passed along like warnings. He complained to anyone who would listen that he'd been cut off unfairly, that his own family had betrayed him over nothing. But nothing didn't lock accounts. Nothing didn't force adults to change routines. Nothing didn't make a room finally go quiet. Without access to the family safety net, Ryan struggled. Not dramatically, not in ways people could laugh off, just enough to expose how much he'd relied on being rescued. He showed up at my parents' house once, unannounced. I wasn't there, but my father told me what happened. Ryan stood on the porch, arms crossed, defiant as ever. "You really did it," he said. "You chose her." My father shook his head. "I chose responsibility." Ryan scoffed. "So, what now? I'm just supposed to apologize?" My father didn't hesitate. "You're supposed to understand why." Ryan laughed bitterly. "You always take her side." "No," my father replied. "I take the child's side. Every time." Ryan left after that. He didn't slam the door. He didn't shout. And somehow, that made it feel more final. My mother tried harder than anyone to rewind time. She invited me to lunch, sent pictures from old albums, spoke in soft, nostalgic tones about how things used to be. "I just miss us," she said once, stirring her coffee endlessly. "I don't miss who we were," I replied gently. "I miss who we pretended to be." She didn't answer. I set boundaries I'd never set before. Shorter visits. Clear expectations. No minimizing Ethan's feelings. No, he didn't mean it. At first, she bristled. Then she adjusted. Not perfectly. Not all at once. But enough to matter. Ethan changed in ways that surprised me. He stopped hesitating before speaking. Stopped watching adults' reactions before finishing a sentence. Stopped apologizing for existing. One afternoon, a boy at the playground took one of his toys without asking. Ethan didn't freeze. He stood up. "That's mine," he said clearly. The boy handed it back, startled. I watched from a bench, my chest tight with something that felt like pride and grief mixed together. Later, in the car, Ethan said, "Mom, I didn't get scared." I smiled. "I saw." He looked thoughtful. "Is that because you stopped Uncle Ryan?" I took a moment before answering. "Yes," I said. "And because Grandpa did too." Ethan nodded. "I like that." One evening, my father came over for dinner. He helped Ethan with a puzzle, kneeling on the floor, patient and focused. "You know," he said quietly to me later, "I thought keeping the peace made me a good parent. Henveri selling one." I leaned against the counter. "A lot of people think that." "I was wrong," he admitted. "Peace without safety isn't peace at all." I nodded. "It's silence." He looked at Ethan again. "I won't choose silence anymore." And I believed him. Ryan didn't disappear completely. He sent one message, months later. "You went too far." I stared at it for a long time before deleting it, because I knew something now that I hadn't before. Protecting a child will always look extreme to someone who benefited from ignoring harm. And that was a price I was finally willing to pay. People still ask me if it was worth it. They ask in careful voices, like the answer might be dangerous, like protecting a child somehow needs justification. I used to hesitate when they asked that question. I don't anymore. Because I see the answer every morning when Ethan walks into the kitchen without fear in his shoulders. When he tells me about his day without checking my face first. When he laughs freely, loudly, without waiting to see if it's allowed. That didn't happen by accident. It happened because someone finally said, This stops here. For a long time, I thought keeping a family together meant enduring whatever hurt came with it. I thought love was patience without limits, silence without end. I was wrong. Real love has boundaries. Real family protects the smallest voice in the room, and real responsibility doesn't wait until harm looks obvious enough to excuse action. My father didn't save the family that day. He saved a child. And in doing so, he gave me permission to stop carrying what was never mine to hold. Ryan still believes we overreacted. My mother still mourns the version of us that never truly existed. And that's okay. Healing doesn't look the same for everyone. But in our home, there is safety now. There is honesty. There is space to make mistakes without being shamed for them. If you're listening to this and wondering whether you're allowed to step in, whether you're allowed to draw a line, whether protecting someone vulnerable will cost you too much, let me tell you something I learned the hard way. Some things are worth breaking. Because what you save on the other side can change a life forever, and that will always be worth it.